Today's guest is someone who knows exactly what it takes to stop spinning in circles, start owning your decisions, and become the kind of woman who actually follows through on the life she wants. I'm talking with Erin Marcus, award-winning business owner, speaker, author, and host of an internationally ranked podcast, Ready Yet. Erin has helped thousands of people shift out of reaction mode and step fully into their power by combining decades of business experience with a deep understanding of personal growth. Her motto, you'll never do what it takes until you become the person it takes to do it. So in our conversation, we talk about what it really means to be in charge of your life and your results, how to stop waiting for permission, conquer fear, embrace authenticity, and take aligned action, even when it feels uncomfortable. So if you're ready to make bold moves and stop outsourcing your power, Erin's going to show you exactly where to begin. So let's dive in. Erin, thank you so much for being here. I am so excited to chat with you today.
Woohoo! I'm excited. This is awesome. I love my favorite topics. Women getting in charge of their own lives and doing whatever it is that they want to do.
Yeah. Right? Which sounds easy, but it's not.
Brutal.
So you're known for helping people do this, right? Get out of reaction mode and take a full ownership of their life and business. But I know that insight probably came from your own experience. So take us back, share more of your story, what life looked like before this work and how it led you here.
Well, what's interesting is there really was a pivotal, if not moment in time, a period in time, because I was really successful in my big fancy corporate job, right? So yay, Erin, all the accolades, all the awards, all the bonuses, all the promotions, yay, Erin. And it makes you think like, I'm really smart. I can do anything. And it wasn't that I didn't achieve something, and I'm not trying to minimize that. But the thing that I realized later is I was very successful on a path that somebody else created, which is corporate. I did great at my job. I added a lot of value to the company. And again, I'm not trying to be flippant about those experiences because I worked really hard. And then I owned a franchise. But once again, I was successful on somebody else's path. And I think that's a really big thing, especially for women, because there's a very big difference between being successful on a path that you're following, whether it's a job, whether it's how, the way you're running your family because of what the family you grew up in taught you was how you do it. But what happened for me is, as my business and my desire for what business I was in, as that evolved and I moved into business coaching, which I had been doing as a mentor and on the side of everything all for 20 years before I finally claimed it. But when I put my shingle out, as we used to say, but put my flag in the ground and said, I'm doing this thing, a lot of it really fell apart, because once it was about me and taking ownership of my knowledge and creating my personal brand, like once it really became about me, I hit all sorts of obstacles I never saw coming. All sorts of limiting beliefs. I didn't know about that type of stuff. And I was like, the pivotal moment was I was at an event about money mindset. That was not a thing in corporate. You get a paycheck. Like, this was not a thing. Money mindset. What's that? But once I was in really an entrepreneur world, solopreneur, I'm at this event about money mindset. And the woman in front of me, who I could tell, because it was a small group, I could tell she understood what the people were talking about. I was like, well, individually understand the definitions of the words they're using, but when they put them together like that, I have no idea what they're talking about, right? And so her and I start chatting, and I'm telling her, I don't understand. My parting gift in corporate was a $3 million a year deal. I got my franchise to the top 10 out of 200 in 18 months. What the blippity blip is going on now? And the way she framed that question for me that started me thinking differently was, well, how come you could do it for them, but you can't do it for you? How come you can sell something worth $3 million a year for a company, but you can't charge that or whatever for you? How come you can follow a franchise path and knock it out of the park, but you can't do it for you? And that was right. Like that was my introduction to this understanding that it wasn't what I was doing. It was how I was thinking that was screwing it all up.
Yeah, that's a really powerful way to think about it.
Yes. And not what I wanted to hear at the time.
Right?
Because I had several decades behind me by that point of just working harder and just making it work. And I didn't know what to do with this new piece of information. I didn't know how to tackle this, how to conquer this in the same way. And that's where that whole like deep dive personal development side of what I do now really started.
I love that because that even makes me think so often. I can show up and I can do all of this for my clients. Why can't I do it for myself? Right?
And there's a little bit of, there's so many different versions of that. There's, first of all, the thing you do for a living, you know, whether you're a copywriter, whether you're a coach, whether you're in marketing, like all the things that you do for a living, it's hard to, what do they say? It's hard, you can't read the label from inside the bottle. It's so much harder to apply it to ourselves.
Yes.
There's no emotional attachment when I do what I do for a client.
Yes, 100%. And I say that all of the time, right? I even hire other messaging strategists and copywriters because I'm too inside of my own head. I'm too inside of my own business that it's really hard to look from the outside in.
Right. And on top of it, you know, I don't have any limiting beliefs about you, right? Like, I don't have any emotional wounds from childhood about you. It'd be very easy for me to help you because I don't have the noise in the background about what you're capable of. I can see what you're capable of, right? I don't have the critical parent voices in my head and the family I grew, you know, whatever they are, we all have them.
Yes.
But it's so interesting. Like as we were chatting before we hit record here, it doesn't matter. What's interesting is like this work never ends.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's something that's so important when you're trying to really, and same thing with what you do, like it works for now until it doesn't work.
Mm-hmm.
And then whether you're on the business side, then the market changes, then consumers change, and then the economy changes, or then some better version of whatever it is that you work on gets released and you have to adjust what you do, your business. Well, the same thing is on the mindset side. It's like, it's not new level, new devil. It's new level, same devil, different outfit, right? The same trigger shows up. It just looks a little different. And so sometimes you don't catch it as fast. So one of the things that I learned, luckily pretty quickly, because of my experience in marketing and understanding that you're never done with it, is that you don't fix your mindset. You don't fix your calendar. You don't fix your marketing. You just make it better for now. Everything is forever iterative.
Yes.
Right? Because as soon as you start thinking about, well, once I fix it, I'll be fine, then you take your eye off the ball and then you're not, right? And then you're also disappointed when it's a challenge again because you thought you fixed it.
100%. And I liked how you said adjust too, because we have to constantly be learning. And as every day the world is changing, things are evolving, you know, that especially
your crazy mother does something that you thought you've gotten over. And then
yes.
Suddenly you're on the phone then at 8 o'clock in the morning with all of your step siblings going, what in the heck is going on with these people?
Yes. And so we're not ever just throwing everything away and starting from scratch every time. And I tell that with my clients too, like it didn't work and that's okay. What did we learn from that? How can we adjust and make simple little shifts to make it start working again? And I'm sure that's the same with mindset is like, you got to just keep working on it.
You just keep working on it. And I love what you just said about it. You know, that it's the phrase that it's not failure, it's feedback. And I take it a little bit one step further sometimes. What if failure was the goal? What if failure was actually the goal? Let's take the emotional charge out of things, quote, not working, and just take the emotional charge out of it completely. Because sometimes So my crazy weird background, because you can't tell by this, but I'm only 5 feet tall, but my crazy weird background is I did competitive powerlifting and bodybuilding and boxing for years. And when you're working out for strength training to see how much you could possibly lift, to get into a competition to find out how much you can possibly lift, failure is the goal. Sometimes, not every time, but several of the workouts involved literally required you doing what it is that you're doing, lifting the weight you're lifting until you literally couldn't lift it anymore, and then doing a couple more, and then really figuring out where everything fails.
Mm.
Like, how do you know that you've given your absolute effort?
Yeah.
Sometimes, right? Sometimes you figure that out by finding where it all break. We would say that in my company meetings. Where is this going to break? This process works now, but when does it break? So that you can use failure as the information and the goal and not some emotionally charged problem.
Right. And so you're prepared for it, right?
Prepared and not even worried about it. You're looking forward to it
Mm.
because of the information it's going to give you.
And so do you help your clients with that? Where do you see most people getting stuck when they're thinking about their goals or becoming that person?
There's a few places. One of the things that trips people up really badly is this very human nature of all or nothing thinking. And so what happens is you have your goals. So that was exactly what people say. What are your goals? Well, sometimes our goals are so far away from where we are now that we can't bridge the gap. There's so many times in our lives that we don't have a tangible hold on our goals. Either they feel so far away and unattainable that we do nothing, or something in our world rocked us, whether it's a health problem, a family issue, an unexpected financial issue. There are times in our lives where we retreat into survival mode, where I just want to get through the day. Who cares about the goals? And so, yes, we set goals. If you know what you want, this is fantastic. I am a master at reverse engineering a path to a goal. This is wonderful. This is wonderful information. But through my own experience of losing sight of my goals because of random things that were going on, I've learned to start from the other side. I've actually learned to start from square one instead of the end goal. What do you want more of in your life?
Mhm.
Sometimes the pressure to identify the perfect goal, to articulate the exact thing, literally stops us from doing anything. So if you're finding yourself in that place, and it happens to us, it seems to happen to people a couple times in their adulthood, right? Where you're like, what do I even want? Why am I even doing this? Rather than giving it all up, let's just start and make it a little easier for you. What do you want more of in your life? I redid my I shut down a brand that I had for 6 years, multiple six-figure coaching business, a big team. Like, I shut it all down because I realized the goal that I was chasing was somebody else's definition of success. It got too far away from what I wanted, right? And that's what can happen when we're chasing money or getting, wrapped up in the world of entrepreneurship. It doesn't make any of this bad or wrong. It's just that's where we find ourselves. So I went back to the beginning. I'm like, okay, what do I want more of in my life? What do I actually want more of in my life? And that's what people have never sat down and thought about.
Mhm.
They started a business to do the thing the business does because they're good at the thing the business does and they love doing the thing the business does, but they've never really thought about what do they want in their life. Because your business model should be dictated by what you want in your life, not trying to have a little bit of a life that fits in around the edges of your business model.
100%. And so often the coaches I'm serving, booked out one-on-one, and the goal is to move more of that membership group offer, because that's where we started. What do you want more of or less of in your life?
Or less
right?
of,
Like,
right? Yeah.
oh, and most of it's time freedom, financial freedom, like all of that, because I don't know about you, but I want simple. I want easy. I don't want a million other things going on. I just want to be able to
Things
go.
get complicated all by themselves. It's crazy how that happens.
And so if you can set up your business to be how you want to show up in your everyday life, that is really powerful. So setting up your offers in that way, setting up the way people come into your world that way. Once you get all of those things working, it can be really powerful.
And I think, and I've been through this myself, one of the, you asked, where do people get stuck? People get stuck when they know that and they spend time designing that. And then they get the little voices online that tell them, no, do it this way, or the voices from whomever telling you, no, do it that. Like, we get overwhelmed. We're like all the noise, and we start to believe they know something we don't. And again, going back to what we're saying, the limiting beliefs, the critical parent voice in our head, all the voices in our head that are telling us that everyone else knows more in some way than what we know. And there's a really big difference between, because I'm a coach and I've hired coaches and I work with people who help me and I help other people. So, but there's a very big difference between finding people who can help you do the thing that you want to do is fantastic. Following people because you think that they know more about what you want than what you want is where we get hooked in a problem. That's where we end up on the hamster wheel. That's, if we don't have that sense of self, if we don't feel confident in being able to own, this is what I want, this is what I don't want, this is how I want it to work, this is what I'd rather have a stick in the eye than do again, right? Like, that's the information I put in front of myself all the time. What did I consciously decide I want and don't want? And then that's my litmus test for my decision making. Does making, like, going back to what do you said one of mine, I want more freedom of time and I want to have a bigger impact. Those are the two things I want. And simplification to me is a process of how do I get those two things? And so now when I go to make a decision, will this get me more, move me closer or further away from the things that I want?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because nothing's standing still. It's either moving us closer to what we want or further away from what we want. And it's really helping you with those decision-making matrices, because that's what an entrepreneur is. Your chief decision maker. And my right. And it's bombarded with decisions. And the other place, to answer your question and go in another completely different direction, welcome to my brain, is people get stuck because they want, and I love Gary Vee did a short video on this. People get stuck because they want every decision they make to be perfect. They want to make 3 decisions and they want them to be 3 perfect decisions. They want to, in Gary Vee's video, he's like, you want to be 3-0. And when you're a business owner, when you're an entrepreneur, your best day ends at like 118 and 72. There's no way to grow a business if you're only willing to make 1 or 2 decisions and they have to be perfect. You'll never get anywhere.
Right. 100%. And so going back to what you said before, where they're getting stuck, it kind of goes back to imposter syndrome or
Fear. It's just fear.
Yeah. Yes.
It's fear of doing it wrong. It's fear of doing it right. It's fear of not being enough. Like, it's just always, imposter syndrome is just another word for fear. I'm not good enough at it. And I call it fear so that it's really direct.
Yeah.
So that I call it all fear. It just shows up in different ways so that I know exactly what I'm dealing with, because there is a very big difference between fear and being in danger. And our brains, being in danger is a biological response. Your body has a biological response to being in danger. Weird things happen. Like, it's weird once you learn how this actually works. Like, the reason you get all sweaty is so that you're slippery and the saber-toothed tiger can't hold on to you. Like, that's literally why that happens, right? The reason you might get cold or warm is because, like, your blood literally thickens up when you're really scared so that you don't bleed out that fast. Like, it's the actual science behind it is just absolutely intriguing. And yet we live our lives here. You and I are having this nice conversation. We're both in our nice, safe homes. And yet we act and behave as if we're in danger. If I were to say to you, well, have you tried speaking? If it's something that makes you nervous, your body will react as if you're in danger. And that's why I call it all fear, so that I can remind myself, I'm not actually going to die.
Right. So how do you coach women through this resistance then? It's that inner resistance. And I know we talked about decision making. I mean, is this ultimately what I want? Is this decision going to get me closer? But sometimes I don't feel that always is like,
It's reframing.
right?
Well, it doesn't work because it doesn't work if you only do it once.
Right. Yes.
This is vigilance.
Yes.
This is what I mean. This doesn't get fixed.
Mhm.
This is constant, right? Repetition is the mother of skill.
Yes.
I forgot who that original quote was, but I've heard it like since I was a child. Like, repetition. People go to a seminar or they listen to a podcast and they go, oh my God, that's me. I'm so glad I heard that. And they do something in the moment because you're inspired and motivated. And here's the truth of it is, you're borrowing my energy. You're borrowing my energy and my confidence for that moment, which is freaking fantastic. Do it. But then you need the repetition of behaviors and patterns and activations if you're woo, and right, to support you. That's right. Like, what happens is people make a decision in a moment. They have a thought in a moment of strength, and they do nothing to shore up that strength in an ongoing way. They think they're fixed because here's the truth of it is, this stuff is uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
This stuff can get uncomfortable. If we're going to have real conversations about why you're not doing what it is that you say that you want to be doing, we're going to come to some uncomfortable realities. But that's fine, because remember, we already had this conversation. You're actually not in danger. You're just scared.
Yes.
You're scared of being uncomfortable. Because, and now I'm going to get in my 20 years older than you soapbox, because we've created a society that doesn't allow for discomfort at any point. I have my space heater on. I turn it on, I turn it off. I don't want to be uncomfortable, right? Like, uncomfortable is now bad. You should always be okay. I will promise you, your dreams, isn't it Will Smith who has like the video, like everything you want is on the other side of fear?
I think so.
It's 100% true, because action cures fear. If you're waiting, here's the horrible truth, another horrible truth. We should just title this whole thing, oh my God, we're doomed. You can't think your way through any of this. You cannot think your way through any of this. You can only act your way through it. Because the only way you're going to convince your nervous system that you're not going to die is by doing the thing and not dying. And then your brain goes, oh, I guess that was no big deal.
Yes. And doing it again and again, like doing uncomfortable things.
Yeah, but baby steps.
Yes.
Like, when I teach people, I speak in front of audiences, I find it, people think I'm crazy. I have a good time doing it. And a lot of my clients want to do some version of that. But you don't start out in front of 500 people. You back it down to where can we trick, there's two ways to trick your nervous system into believing you're not going to die. One is to find the baby step that doesn't freak you out and start there. Totally fine. The other is to override the whole system. So it's like, oh my God, I don't even know what to do. And it can't respond, because that's like the jumping out of the airplane, swimming with sharks version. There's no right or wrong. It's like, what is your risk tolerance? But that's how you build that muscle. That's how you build that muscle, is You do it once, you do whatever version of it you can pull off to get that momentum started. Your nervous system realizes you're not going to die. But here's the other side of this, going back to the business coaching side.
Mhm.
If all of this stuff where you're trying to do to overcome your fear, if all of that work isn't in a line with what you actually want, with the business model, you won't do it because the drive isn't strong enough.
100%.
Right? That's why I do those things together.
And so do you always start with that first when your clients come to you? Do you start with
I
what?
start with what do you want?
Mhm.
What are we building here? What are we building? And then there's just a lot of questions as to why do you want it this way? To find out if it's something they really want or something they think they're supposed to want.
Yes, I love that you bring that why up, because I actually, one of my clients, she was really good at this. She did it to me a few times, but she would ask a question and you answer, and why does that matter? And you'd say your answer, but why does that matter? And say it again, but why does that matter? And by the fourth, you like, it was like this huge aha. You really got to
Yes.
the core of why that matters.
Well, I love that you love that, because one of the things I find working with a lot, especially female entrepreneurs, is your own insecurities get triggered when somebody asks you why you're recommending something, or when somebody asks maybe an objection during a sales conversation, right? Our own insecurities. And that what you imagine, going back to failure as a goal, like you should be excited when somebody asks you a really good question that questions you as to why you're doing something.
Yeah, and it's uncomfortable. Like you said, it can be uncomfortable, but the more you dig in, you get these ahas. And I don't know how to explain it, but I've seen it work with so many of her people. And I've even taken that on, and it's really powerful.
It's very powerful. And it's the other thing that question does for you, which is so helpful. A lot of times, whether you're a naturally process-minded person, or you've spent so much effort, right? As we do, we spend so much effort in how it is that we run our businesses. When we start working with prospects, we're all up in our processes and look at our beautiful baby. And all our prospects care in the beginning, all they care about in the beginning is why.
Mm-hmm.
And so you want to be able to speak to the why, because that's the emotion.
Yep.
That's the emotion. Why is this important? What's the outcome that it's going to provide? And why is that life changing? And why does it matter? And why is it something we have to worry about now? Why is now the time? And nobody cares about all your process and your magical formula unless they agree with that why piece, that outcome and that why piece. And so we're wasting all of our efforts talking about our processes when we could make instant connections with the why does that matter. Like, I'll give you an example with my why. And it sounds like it has nothing to do with it. When I was born, I needed emergency surgery the day I was born. In 1970, I was 5 pounds.
Wow.
And this was a time the two doctors got into an argument over what was the right thing to do. And my mother in 1970, when women didn't speak up about this, said, "You don't know what's wrong with my child. Take her to the children's hospital." If the other doctor would have won, I would have died. But my mother spoke up for me. And so what I have learned, and that has been a repetition in my life, whether it was my mother speaking up for me, whether it was myself, the businesses that I've in, this is what I know. If you don't make decisions for you, people who are not vested in you will make those decisions for you. It doesn't make them wrong or bad. Maybe they're lawyers, maybe they're doctors, maybe they're the government. But if you don't proactively, that's that whole be in charge thing. If you are not proactively making decisions for you and your family, you default to other people's decisions. That's what my big why is. I want the world to know, especially women, that they need, not that they get to, but that they need to be making their own decisions for their life so that they're not defaulted to. And you can tell because I get all riled up. Like, this is important to me. My life, forget it wouldn't have been different. It would have ended.
Yeah.
And so my why is so much more than business coaching, is so much more than the messaging that I help clients and the business strategies and the mindset work. It's because I know that, I talk about building your world your way. We watch. I mean, my God, if you watch TV, if you watch anything at all, it's pretty obvious it's a little important now for you to be in charge of your own world.
Yes.
I don't care what you believe in. You need to be in charge of your own world right now, because the people in charge of the other world are losing all their mind, all of them, right? Like,
Yes.
this is not what we want to be doing, right? Any of it. I don't even care what you're. Right?
I know this is probably horrible to say, but I'm like, I try to stay away, as far away of all of that as I can, so that I can make the decisions that I want. And that I'm not brought down by the negativity, because
it's the fine line between awareness.
Yes.
Because here's the other thing. I am fully aware of the fact that I am able to stay away from it and not have it impact my day is a privilege, for a variety of reasons, right? But that balance between awareness, so I can make informed decisions, and distance, so that I don't get sucked into the chaos.
Yes, 100%. Okay, so for some of our listeners right here, if they're not showing up and making these powerful decisions, or they're stuck in that cycle, what is a small step that they can make, or some habit that you suggest they put in place to like get one step closer, to feel like they're going towards the life they want, the why they want? Because that's important. That's what I talk to all my clients about too, even when we're working on the messaging. It has to go one step below the surface level. Otherwise, you're not going to connect with the people on the other side of the screen.
100%. So here's a journaling exercise that I do. And I do this a lot. I do the same exercise. Sometimes the answers are the same day after day after day, and it just takes that to get through it. Sometimes it's about business. Sometimes it's about relationships. Sometimes it's about my mother. Like, it works across the board. It's 4 questions. So the first question is, what do I want in this situation? Not like in my life. What do I want? What do I want? So holidays coming, you're going to be with family that annoys the pants off you. What do you want? I want a enjoyable holiday experience. It can be that simple. What do I want? I want a business that's not stressful, right? So what do I want? Then there's 3 follow-up questions, because it starts with that. What do I need to do? What do I need to do to make that happen? So if it's your business, what's the one action I need to do today? Right? It have to be, this is all very short term. What do I want today? So what do I need to do? And the second question is, who do I need to be? Who do I need to be? A lot of times, the 75% of that time, the answer to that, I need to be a little more brave. I need to be a little more forgiving. I either need to be brave or I need to forgive somebody. Most of the time. And by the way, you usually have to forgive yourself. Is the first person you need to give, right? So it's, what do I want? What do I have to do today? Who do I have to be? I have to be the person who's a little more brave. I have to be a person who's a little more compassionate, whatever it is. And then the fourth question is, what do I have to believe? What do I have to believe that'll allow that to be possible? I have to believe the world is working for me, not against me. I have to believe that it's possible. I have to believe I'm allowed. I have to believe I'm good at what I do. I have to believe that my mother will, for 1 second, keep her for whatever it is, right? We get it, right? I have to believe it's possible. I have like, what do I have to believe? Because if that's the key, because if I don't believe what I want is possible, none of it matters.
Mhm.
None of anything matters if you don't believe that it's possible.
I love that.
And but there's a caveat to the whole thing.
Okay.
There's a caveat to the whole thing. This is very important. If what you want has anything to do with controlling another person, you don't get to have that.
I like that.
It's nothing to do with anyone else. So if I want to have a nice holiday experience and what I want is my, sister-in-law's cousin who screws everything up to not get drunk, and I have no control over that situation, right? Like whatever that is. You cannot control other people. So the whole what do I want is only about yourself. The
Mhm.
whole process is only about you. There's nothing you can do about anybody else.
I really love this because I know for me, like I've just started journaling because I've known like I went through a dip and I was like my mindset was off, energy was off, and like things weren't moving forward. And it's like, okay, something needs to change, right? And
Right.
so this for me, it's starting out simple things to journal about. What am I grateful for? Just having that change of mindset has mine
You're right. It is.
is
100%.
mindset, right? The change of mindset like has made such an incredible impact. I've seen the power of it. And that's why I love these questions too, because it's simple, it's easy, but it's powerful. Because it
Yeah.
is so often about who do we need to be and how do we need to show up?
100%.
Because like we need to believe in ourselves, first of all, first and foremost. And
And
if
you
you
can borrow energy. In my book, I write about borrowing energy. Like when I was living in, where was I living? I don't even know. I was like living in Chicago again, and I used to take Krav Maga. And I'm weird. I like fighting as exercise. It's very weird. So here I was like cutting through an alley to get back to my car after, fighting with people for 90 minutes. And here, mug me now, see what happens. Right? Like, who am I kidding? 5 feet tall and I'm exhausted because I've been fighting for 90 minutes. Like, but you can borrow that energy. Where does you can, if you're not confident here, go, Tony Robbins talks about getting in a state. You can borrow your mama bear energy, borrow whatever you have to imagine in your head of where you're confident, get yourself mentally in that place and then go do the thing.
Hmm.
You can borrow it from where you have it in your life.
Oh, I love that. Okay, so you said your book, and of course, I want to mention, I know you have a new book come out, so let's share that with our audience before we go here. Tell me all about it.
So it's based on the podcast. The goal release date is the third quarter. The fact that you and I are talking now at the beginning, the second quarter is making me go, oh my God, there's work to do. So the goal release is the third quarter, 2025. We don't have an exact date, but it's really based on, it's called Ready Yet, same as the podcast. After all the conversations I've had with guests, with clients, with my own journey, it really is about who do you need to become? And how do you do it in order to be the person that is resilient and the patient persistence and the positive expectation and all of the things like stories to motivate you, details into how do you add that to your own life, and what is it that I've learned over these years that helps people become the person it takes to do the things that they want to do. And to me, the most important part of that is it's your own version of it. It's not my version of it. Right. I get on stage, I'm, at my age with half the time my hair is blue or purple and it's shaved and I have leopard print trim. Like, you don't have to be weird in order for this to work. Your version of all of this, our own individual version of all of this. And so putting it together all in one place in the book has been a lot of fun.
Thank you so much. I cannot wait to get my hands on it. I know that for sure. And that is a perfect segue to what I always like to ask my guests is, what does success mean to you now? Because as you and I talked about, and it's your own version. You get to define success. Nobody else gets to define it for you. And that's really hard, I think, to shift that mindset. So, how do you define success for yourself?
For me, it's pretty easy. It's getting to do what I want to do when I want to do it.
Love it.
That's it, right? Like, it's not money. It's not likes. It's not, I don't know, whatever, click through. It's not whatever, I don't know, landing the big gig, whatever. It's getting to do what I want to do when I want to do it.
I love that. And while all those other things are like added woohoo extras make things
Right.
good, but like the ultimate end goal is getting to do what I want to
Right.
do. I want to do it. And all of that helps us get there. So, ooh, I love that. Simple, easy, powerful. All right, Erin, I had so much fun talking to you today. I will have all of your links in the show notes. When your book comes out, I'll also add that so people can follow and get it wherever it is available. But if people want to get to you now, how can they find you? How can they work with you? Tell us all about it.
Yes, we make it very easy. So here's a marketing 101 lesson for everyone out there. Make it easy.
Yeah.
Don't give people 17 calls to action. This is all in one place. It's erinmarcus.com. If you go to erinmarcus.com, you will find links to all the socials. You will find free resources, the podcast, all of the things are all just at erinmarcus.com.
Love it. Well, thank you so much, Erin. Again, it's always a pleasure and so much fun talking to you. Never a dull moment. So thank you for being here today.
Thank you. This was amazing. Thank you so much.
Wonderful.